Production funding for Sports Files is made possible in part by
Infinity of Memphis has moved to Germantown Road, just half-mile north of Wolf Chase Galleria, and is proud to support WKNO for its quality broadcasting and service to our community. Quality and service? No wonder Infinity of Memphis feels at home on WKNO.
the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Today on Sports Files, we recap the Memphis Grizzlies season and look ahead to their future. Well, the Grizzlies season came to an end last Friday after a home defeat at the hands of the Golden State Warriors. The Grizz fell 4-2 in their Western Conference semifinal round series. Today on Sports Files, we'll hear from head coach Dave Joerger and some of the players. But first, it's our annual postseason media panel. I'll be joined by Grizzlies beat writer from the Commercial Appeal, Ron Tillery, Grizzlies television sideline reporter Rob Fisher, who also co-hosts the Fish and Stat Show on Real Sports Talk, Sports 56 and 87.7 FM, and Peter Edmiston, who co-hosts Wolo and Peter in the Morning, also on Sports 56 and 87.7 FM, and is a contributor to Grizzlies coverage at the Commercial Appeal. It's a Grizzlies recap and a look to the team's future, and it's next on Sports Files. Gentlemen, thanks so much for being here. Appreciate your time. Before we start to look ahead to next season and all the questions during the offseason, like Marc Gasol at the top of the list, let's look back at last year. Ron, let me start with you. How would you evaluate what we just saw?
It was a successful season. I mean, when you look at them winning 55 regular season games, advancing in the playoffs, but I think it's disappointing at the same time because there were great expectations, and rightfully so, of this team making a deep playoff run. This is 3 years running of winning 50-plus games. You have the core four intact for 5 years. The players believe that the time is now, the window is closing. And so ultimately, they should have won the division. They should have been the 2 seed. They should be in the Western Conference Finals.
Peter, some of the players actually called it a failure.
Yeah, I wouldn't say failure. I think that's a little harsh, particularly from a fan perspective. I mean, you can never take for granted how bad these Grizzly teams were for so long, and the city of Memphis saw nothing but pain and 60-loss seasons and all that. So winning 50 and 50-plus and 55 is great. But I would say it's unsatisfying because we've been here before. We've seen this. Now, 5 straight postseason runs have ended in either satisfactory or mildly unsatisfactory fashion. And this core group's getting older. You can feel Father Time starting to tick away, and you know that window is starting to shut. And if you don't get something more concrete than one Western Conference Finals appearance out of this group, that's going to feel like a disappointment.
Fish, when it was all said and done, 2 wins short of making the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, and I think the argument of being ousted in the second round, and again, as you mentioned, Ron, I think the one thing that's a problem with that is if you advanced to the Western Conference Finals and played Golden State in that round, I think you would have had the same outcome. So I don't know how different. It's disappointing any time it ends, and it's disappointing that it ended a little early. But I think if you saw them in the next round, it would have been the same result. Golden State's that good, especially if the Grizzlies weren't healthy. It was a really good year. Failure for the team, yeah, because they expect to play in June, and they're not. So, yeah, I understand why they're saying that, but it was a really good year, 55 wins. And, as Peter mentioned, I think you have to enjoy it. You look at playoff wins over the last 5 years, only 4 teams have more playoff wins than the Grizzlies have as a team. One team's got LeBron, had LeBron, one's got Durant, the Spurs, and Indiana has 1 more win than you. So I think it's been a pretty special run that you don't want to go back to where it used to be.
Absolutely. All right, quick answer. Fish, let me go to you again. MVP of the season for the Grizzlies. Who was their most valuable player?
Boy, good question. I'll go Mike Conley.
Sounded like you wanted a hybrid answer. I know that, right?
And I think when I'm looking with Mike, it's so much about that Golden State game, the Mike Conley game. But I think you could pick any of the big 3.
Peter, Marc Gasol was the only All-Star.
Yeah, it's hard to differentiate between the big 3 for me. I mean, it's kind of like what you guys have said. I mean, that core group is so much a part of each other's game now. If I had to pick one, though, I'd still say Zach. I still think Zach is such an embodiment of what this city is all about, what they love watching with this team, what he's able to do, his game continuing to get refined. And there were stretches this year when he was unguardable. He was playing out of his mind at the age of 33, and when everyone expected for years and years that he would start to decline, and so far he really hasn't. I'd say Zach, but really, truthfully, you can give it to 3 or 4 guys.
And Ron?
Well, I absolutely agree with Zach because, when Zach gets out of sorts, he takes it out on the other team. When Zach has a slump, it's 2 games, and it's not going to be weeks. And I think that's what we saw from him. I think we saw him will this team, and lead this team, whether it was allowing Mark to blossom, whether it was letting Mike Conley, be Mike Conley. But at the end of the day, you could always count on Zach, and so I would go with Zach.
The million-dollar question as we head into the offseason is Marc Gasol's future. There's a number of things he can do. He can sign a 1-year deal, sign a multi-year deal with the Grizzlies. He can go somewhere else. It's all in his ballpark. Peter, what do you think Marc Gasol does?
Well, this is the one that everything hinges on. I mean, for this franchise, for sure. I mean, in this offseason, everything starts there. There's so many things that go into this decision, and I'm sure we'll discuss and have been discussed for a long time with the expansion of TV money next year and the financial incentives that will be there for guys to sign long-term deals starting next offseason. I think that's going to enter into his discussions. But at the end of the day, it comes down to, does Marc Gasol believe at 30 years old his best chance to win an NBA championship is in Memphis? And if the Grizzlies can show him for at least 1 more year that the answer to that question is yes, then I think he'll sign at least a short-term 1 year with another player option. If not, though, and I think he'll ask that question, I think he'll ask it very pointedly, then I think there's a real chance he could go somewhere else.
Ron, you've said actually on Sports 56 that you don't know. You may think he's going to go somewhere else.
Yeah. I'm not here to say what people think that I should say or give them what they want. I really believe that he's leaving. I have no super inside intelligence on this. I agree a lot with what Peter started out with. Ultimately, Mark is not an American-born basketball player. You don't look into his eyes and see dollar signs. This is a guy that, even though he says it over and over again and sounds like a broken record, that he wants to play the right way and win the right way, he really believes that. And I think at 30 years old and getting into the back half of his prime, that's going to be supremely important to him. Can you get it done in Memphis? LaMarcus Aldridge is not going to be a trailblazer next year because he hates Portland. It's because he's determined that he can't get it done up there. LeBron James left Cleveland for Miami initially for those same reasons. And I just feel like, this has run its course. And it doesn't say anything about what Mark's given. It doesn't say anything about the Grizzlies. It doesn't say anything about what the future holds. It just says that in this time and space, I just think he's gone.
I love the honesty, but Fish, now that Ron's bummed out the show, let's bring it around to the other side. I would imagine you believe that Big Spain will come back.
I do. I think he'll be back. I think worst case scenario is a 1-year deal, and then we go through this again next season. I do. I just don't know what options are out there where he can get that. I agree with you about the winning and it being that important. Yeah. I don't know where those options really lie around the league for him to go. And maybe one will be out there. Maybe one will come up, and maybe he does test it. I think the comfort level, I think the comfort with the team, I think knowing what this team's about, knowing about playing the right way, and he always talks about playing the right way, I think he makes a decision to stay, whether it's 1 year or a long-term deal. So
many positives. I know Mark has talked about the community. He's talked about this core unit that they have with the Grizzlies. They've been close, the fan base. That's all well and good. The bottom line is, does Marc Gasol believe they can win it all with what they have? Do you think they can win it all, Ron, with what they have? Well, if you listen to him very carefully, and Mark is very guarded. I mean, I asked him out in Oakland. I was like, boy, you and Johnny West seem to be pretty close. He's like, what's close? I didn't invite him to my wedding. So I was must not be close then, right? I was like, okay. He said, I don't have very many people close to me. So, I mean, he's an interesting guy. And I think at the end of the day, there's going to be a sign and trade. I think he absolutely wants the Grizzlies to get what they can get out of him when he leaves, and everybody benefits. Right. That's what I see. Peter, the question again: can they win it all with what they have?
I don't think so. No, I think we've seen enough evidence from this core group that eventually it's a great regular season situation because it presents a matchup that few people can deal with. I mean, they don't often see this kind of post-oriented two bigs, the physicality, all those things that the Grizzlies bring to the table. But when you can scheme for them in the postseason, and you saw Golden State do it, you saw Oklahoma City do it before, you've seen the Clippers do it, you've seen San Antonio do it, you've seen a lot of teams. When you have a 7-game series and you have an opportunity to really hone in on all those weaknesses, the Grizzlies, the way they play, it almost necessitates that they're not going to be able to have the kind of shooting and the kind of ability to spread the floor that you need to win in today's NBA. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's going to be difficult with their personnel without a major change in philosophy to win.
Fish, Peter's talking about a major change in philosophy. They've won a lot of games. They've come close. Can they do it with what they have?
Well, if Mark's back, you have to do it that way. I mean, and do it differently.
Can't change your stripes, right?
Yeah, I mean, and let's look at the reality. Without a superstar player, it's very difficult to win a championship. So you have to do something different. And the Grizzlies do something different. And I think that gives them a chance. It's not going to be easy. And I think, again, without having a superstar player, a lot of things have to go right. You have to be healthy. This team has to be healthy throughout the postseason. If not, they have no shot because they need every single person because it is such team basketball. But their style is so different that I think it gives them a chance. And you look at the postseason, other than getting swept by San Antonio in the Western Conference Finals, they've never been ousted in fewer than 6 games. So they've been there. And 6 games against the best team in the NBA this year, Golden State, yeah, I think you're close. Now, healthy, do they beat Golden State? I don't know. I think it gives you a better chance. The outcome may have still been the same. But it gives you the best shot. And I think, if you got Zach and Mark, that's the way you have to play. Tweak with some things. Certainly need a shooter. Certainly need to knock down threes. Not 15 a game, maybe 6 or 7. And I think you're right there.
And when I say you have to listen to Mark, he said a lot of words the other day at their exit interviews without telling you anything. But if you listen to him very closely, he said, there's nothing they can tell me. This is what he said. He says, at some point, you've got to do. And that's the Peters point.
Right.
They've
don't waste the trip to Spain.
Don't come over there and spend time on my beach. At some point, you've got to do. And he made that point.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so to Peter's point, they've had 5 years of trying to solve this same problem. What makes people think that he has the utmost confidence in them doing it this year?
Well, and the thing is that when you talk about doing something different, one thing I can say that look at Atlanta this year. Atlanta doesn't really have a superstar per se. They've got really good players. I mean, Al Horford is a all-star.
4 all-stars this year.
But Eastern Conference and some other extenuating circumstances came into that. The fact is that they don't really have what you would consider a natural superstar, but they've developed a style of play based on the Spurs. Mike Budenholzer's come in and put that philosophy in place. And they are winning without that guy by shooting threes, by passing, by moving the ball, by doing all the things that I think Dave Joerger would like to do, but doesn't really have the personnel to do.
Fish, it's a conundrum here. You're looking at the Grizzlies. They're never going to have a superstar unless they get lucky in the draft. The free agents aren't going to come here. We know that. They won a ton of games with this core nucleus and this style, which is completely different than everybody else. So on the one hand, you want to shake it up. Peter's talking about maybe a different philosophy to get over the hump. But how can you do that with what you have and the guys that you have right now under contract?
Well, I think you tried to address it last year with Vince Carter. It wasn't the shooter that you wanted him to be. You also addressed it by hoping a healthy Quincy Pondexter would also help out in that area. He was more dreadful than Vince. I mean, just didn't work. So then you had to go get a scorer in Jeff Green, and that kind of ended with a thud. I mean, you have to, heck, this front office has to grit and grind almost as hard as the players do. You've got to find guys that can fit in. You can have your wish list, but in the reality, you're going to have to find guys that you really take a chance on and hope that it works out. Zach Randolph, taking a chance.
Right.
Worked out brilliantly. Tony Allen, taking a chance. Worked out great. The Vince Carter one didn't work out as well, at least at this point. So going in next year, yeah, you hope Vince is healthier and can be that guy that you hoped he would be, but you still have to find somebody else that can help. I mean, you have to tinker with it. There's not, they're not going to have a lot of cap room. They're not going to go over the luxury tax. I mean, so it's a hard job. I mean, they got to be creative, and that's what they have to do.
Well, and here's the thing. I would say when you look at the Grizzlies in years past, basically only Mike Miller has been able to consistently make three-pointers at about a 40+% clip. Mike Conley does it, has done it a couple times, a couple seasons. But they've had guys that have come in. Vince Carter was a 40% shooter last year with Dallas from behind the arc. He's 30% this year. Quincy Pondexter, 32% or so with the Grizzlies. He goes up to 45% when he heads to New Orleans in that trade. Now, that's not all, philosophical stuff. And then, Quincy, there were some personality issues, all those sorts of things that go into it. Maybe it's just that structurally, this system doesn't really benefit shooters. And guys like Courtney Lee, who can get that shot, but they can't get it at a volume even that's going to really be productive enough for the Grizzlies.
Is that more on, and anybody could jump in, is that more on Courtney Lee, because I think he was 20th in the league during the regular season in three-point shooting, that he's not getting enough shots? Is that on him? Is it on the style, that there's just not a lot of shots available? Or is it on his teammates for not setting screens? He can't come off and curl and shoot?
Courtney's not a three-point shooter. Yeah. I mean, he's a guy that can make threes, but he's not a three-point shooter.
He's not a gunner.
No.
Yeah.
And I think they recognized that exactly when he took over as head coach. I mean, he decided, look, we have to play differently. And it goes back to Peter's point. He quickly got slapped in the face with the reality that you don't have the personnel to play the way he would like to play. And so they're going to have to make some hard choices. I think Fisher's point is a good one. It's grit and grind time for this front office because they have not done a very good job of identifying experienced talent to bring into the mix. I mean, you just have to say that because it hasn't worked out. And then you can't just have player development be, some kind of catchphrase. It's got to be actual.
Right.
Because there was an opportunity, and I know I'm speaking to a lot of frustrated Grizz fans when I say this, there was an absolute opportunity to develop Jordan Adams and have him ready when Vince Carter went down for 6 weeks. And they were more willing to live with Nick Calathes and his mistakes than a rookie who is supposedly part of the future of this franchise. So the mindset has to change in the front office and also on the bench.
I don't have a lot of time, but I want to ask you, Peter, about the Tony Allen dilemma. The good, the bad. You got to weigh both. We know what happened with Golden State when they adjusted defensively. With Tony out there, it's basically 5-on-4, but he brings so much. First team, all defensive player. If you add a shooter, if you could somehow find somebody free agency-wise, and you have Courtney still, isn't Tony going to be the one that you're going to have to sit? But then how do you sit a guy who's that good defensively? What's the problem?
Well,
I mean, how
that
do you
gets to the
solve
heart
this
of
issue?
it. I mean, that gets to the heart of it. As Dave Yeager said in exit interviews the other day, it's quite a puzzle. And it's a puzzle that he is going to have to solve and the front office is going to have to solve. If you play Tony Allen alongside Zach Randolph and Marc Gasol, you are essentially playing with three bigs. Now, Tony's not a big in stature, but he's a big in the way he plays. He offensive rebounds, he cuts to the basket, he finishes at the rim, he can't really shoot outside of 10 feet. So you defend him like a big, and you play him like a big, especially in a playoff situation. Well, now you got three bigs. You got one point guard, Mike Conley, who's not that big himself. If you're going to play him off the ball, physically that's going to be tough, and he's a guy that's typically banged up in April and May as it happens. Courtney Lee, it puts a lot of pressure on that two guard to be an awfully big part of your shooting, and that guy is certainly not going to be Courtney Lee.
Not a lot of time, but Fish, you would counter, right? You believe that Tony Allen has to be in there.
Well, he's got to be on the floor. I mean, what the energy he brings, the defensive presence that he has. The problem is if he doesn't start, and it's a problem. But the problem is if he doesn't start, you play a team like Golden State, you're down 12 before he even comes off the bench, and it's tough to play from behind against a team like that. He starts, has the energy, the defensive plays. I think his good certainly outweighs the bad. But if he's out there, you're right. He's not a scorer, not a shooter. Your other two or three, whatever you want to call it, it has to be a guy that, if Courtney's on those aggressive nights where he's shooting 12 times a game, 15 times a game, and he's scoring 18 points, great. But it's not consistent. Now, can you get that guy in free agency? Well, as we said, it's going to be tough to find that guy because those guys don't really exist. So, for cheap, at least. So that'll be tough, and it's certainly a question.
Yeah. Got a minute left, 20 seconds from each of you. Who's not back? You already think Marc Gasol's not back. Would that mean Koufos resigns?
I think that's the only way Koufos resigns. Otherwise, he's gone. I think Nick Calathes looks to his lucrative European deal that he had on the table last year. He's probably not back. Other than that, I mean, it's virtually the same roster. And I think you had to ride it till the wheels fall off.
Peter?
Yeah, I think Marc Gasol signs for one more year. It sets up a very interesting next offseason when he and Mike Conley and Courtney Lee and Jeff Green will be free agents all at once. Jeff Green, I think, will be back. He'll opt into his player option.
And Koufos would be gone.
And Koufos would be gone in that situation. And, now you've got an interesting roster, but you got some work to do.
Fish, 20 seconds.
I agree. I agree with Peter. I think Mark is back. That'll mean Costa's gone. Because he could start somewhere.
Oh, absolutely.
And he'll make the money. But that also means this summer, to your point earlier, Jordan Adams has got to become a player. He's got to become a rotation guy for you. And I don't know if Jarnell Stokes is that guy, but you have to find out, because if not, you're going to have to replace Costa too.
Rob Fisher, Peter Edmiston, Ron Tillery, thank you so much for the great insight.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. We'll take a break. Overtime is coming up next. So those were the thoughts from our media panel. Now the thoughts of the Grizzlies themselves. How did they gauge the season? And more importantly, what do they see in the future? And for Marc Gasol, what lies ahead for one of the league's most coveted free agents?
Overall, it was a good season. I mean, we ran into a good team. I mean, you can't, take nothing from the team we played. That's a good team. And we just got to get better and improve on our team, improve in some positions, and come back and shoot for the same thing next year. That's a ring.
It's tough, but you think about all the things we accomplished and all the things, the good times, and seeing everybody's faces in here again today. It's a good start to the summer. I don't think the window's closing. I think we are growing. Each year we were getting older, but we're getting more and more, veteran leadership from these experiences, and we're learning from every experience that we've had. And every year when you get down to the playoffs, a lot of it is, being healthy. A lot of it is who you have matchup-wise. I mean, it could have went any other way if we were a 2 seed as opposed to a 5 seed or a 4 seed. You never know how things, work out. So, you gotta rely on a little bit of luck here and there, and every year anything can happen. So we understand that, and we're concentrating on continually building our guys from the inside, getting our rookies acclimated, and them to continue to work in the summertime, and our veterans to continue to work.
Very frustrating. Not being able to, really be full force for you guys, and it hurts. But, hopefully I get it stronger and be better than ever next year.
We had internal goals of going further, but we had 55 wins. If you just walked in before the season and said you're gonna have 55 wins, I think that's a heck of a record. I think if we just said 2 weeks ago you're gonna be having Game 6 and down 3-2 against the Golden State Warriors, people thought you were crazy. And so I'm really, really proud of this group. And we had a tough spell there after the All-Star break, but by and large we had a terrific start. Pre-All-Star was tremendous. We struggled there a little bit, came out of it at the end, and I said at the press conference the other night I thought we'd beat a really good Portland team, and to beat somebody 4-1 who has 2 All-Stars. They kept talking about how injured they were, and that's a good team, man. And I was really proud of our guys. So I think all in all it's a very successful season, and I know Mark knows that, and our players feel that, but there's still some work to do. And for next year, what I just told them was, we're looking, you got to put yourselves in a position to get as high a seed as possible, and you got to hold on to that when times get tough, and fight through for the larger goal at the end.
We thought we could win it this year, so it's just, it would be great to keep the big fella around first and foremost, and then you just add from there. Most coaches just want to get better in different positions, and develop our young guys. I think the progression of Jordan Adams was amazing this year. Just watching him from the beginning of the season to All-Star, and then watching his blossom from All-Star to the end of the year, his confidence. So guys like that are going to be very important. Now you throw him into the mix and your draft pick and so on and so forth. I think we're right there. I don't think we're far away.
I don't foresee the future. I cannot imagine what it's going to be like. But the ties to the city, to the people of the city, goes beyond basketball with me. Being here, my whole family's been here since 2001. You know, the place that I used to go watch basketball games now is now a Bass Pro Shop. So imagine how many things has happened in those. I think it's 15 years now, almost 15 years. So you can understand what I feel when I play here, when I step in the hardwood, and how special it is for me. So with that said, I cannot tell you what's going to happen in the future, but I know how special it is for me.
Next up for the Grizzlies, the June 25th NBA Draft, where the good guys currently own the 25th overall choice in the first round. Before we say goodnight, a familiar name and face is returning to the Bluff City. Former Grizzlies player and assistant coach Damon Stoudemire is returning to the Memphis Tigers for a second go-around as a member of Josh Pastner's coaching staff. The longtime NBA point guard assisted the Tigers from 2011 through 2013 before heading to Arizona, where he served as an assistant at his alma mater under Coach Sean Miller. Stoudemire becomes the Tigers' lead assistant and replaces Aki Collins, who we wish nothing but the best in his future endeavors. And that'll do it for now. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.
Production funding for Sports Files is made possible in part by
Infinity of Memphis has moved to Germantown Road, just half-mile north of Wolf Chase Galleria, and is proud to support WKNO for its quality broadcasting and service to our community. Quality and service? No wonder Infinity of Memphis feels at home on WKNO.